If I mention the phrase a day at the fair, what does it evoke for you? Does it bring memories of merry-go-rounds, cotton candy, pickles, and popcorn? Perhaps it does. But the fair we're talking about today is quite different. This fair involves milk and babies and a very special body part. Join us inside. Welcome to the Wise Doula podcast, a place for informative, uplifting, and educational conversations. Here, we will discuss all things connected with parenting, from conception to birth, postpartum, and beyond. You are amongst friends here, so go ahead and grab a cup of your favorite drink. Remember, not caffeinated if you are expecting, and join me inside. I can't wait to speak with you. So in today's episode, I want to tell you about an event that I attended recently. And at the time of recording, we have just celebrated World Breastfeeding Week. Okay? This is a celebration around the world of everything breastfeeding and an effort globally to encourage more families to contemplate breastfeeding. Okay? Because the reality is, a lot of families might not even contemplate it. They might go straight the formula route because of not having enough information or having a lot of fear surrounding it. So it's really important that we have these events. Okay, so this fair I went to, like I said earlier, is not about cotton candy and merry-go-rounds, although we did have a small playground run by a local agency, which was really cool. This fair was about breastfeeding. So we had a number of vendors, all connected to breastfeeding and all offering services for families in the childbearing years. It was really amazing. So I get there, I bring my boxes with my materials. I had prepared some games and I was really excited. I attended last year. I was excited to see what it looked like this year. And I set up, I see the other vendors, were set up. The families start trickling in. A lot of the families that spoke Spanish, as soon as they find out that I speak Spanish, they come to my table like, oh, yay, Spanish, which was really beautiful. I was like, come one, come all, But it's always exciting to be out in the community. A friend of mine said, oh, that sounds like a really important job. And I'm like, yeah, it is. Because being out in the community, being able to have the conversations with the people that are starting or continuing their breastfeeding journey, being able to answer questions, to hear their stories. To me, in any job I've had, okay, before I was a doula, as a teacher, in between teaching and doula work, I had a little stint working at a bookstore. And my favorite thing in all of those places, my favorite thing, were hearing the human stories of the children and parents I work with, of the customers that came to the bookstore, or of the clients I work with, It's really amazing to just sit there and be an empty vessel and be like, I'm here to receive your story and to hear what you need. And so some families came to the table and told me, oh, yes, I already breastfed before and I want to do it again. I already know that's what I want for my baby. Other families came and said, hey, I wasn't able to breastfeed before, but it's something I really, really want to do now. Okay, wonderful. Other families, it was their first baby. So they came with a good idea that they wanted to breastfeed, but no expectations and perhaps no idea exactly of what the process was going to be like. So the stories for me are something that really sticks. Number one, I see people's understanding of how wonderful breast milk is. Number two, I see people's desire to get the best nutrition for their baby. And number three, I see their desire to learn more and to know more. In that perspective, I decided to bring a few games this time, a few activities. Last year, I made it more of a display table, hoping to initiate conversations that way. This year, I decided to make it interactive. And so I brought some simple games, basically truths and myths about breastfeeding, uh, true or false statements about lactation educators or lactation counselors, because I really wanted to see if people knew what it is that we do. And then I brought a game that had the breastfeeding positions, and people had to match the picture with the name of the breastfeeding position and the definition. Okay, and we will mention those before the end of the episode. But it was really cool because the game I brought with the myths and facts about breastfeeding was a good conversation starter. And one of the tags, one of the labels that I had, one of the cards that I had said, breastfeeding is easy and natural for everybody. And several people, curious enough, put that on the truth basket. But if you think about it, that's not always true, is it? That's a bit of a myth, quite a myth. Because the reality is breastfeeding a natural process? Absolutely. Is it always easy and natural for everybody? Can we say that we birth the baby and we put the baby to the breast and everything just flows, no pun intended? Not always. Not always. And when we go around telling people it's easy and natural, as cute as that sounds, we create guilt for the families that don't find it easy or natural. We create inadequacy in the sense that they compare themselves to others and they think, I'm doing something wrong. There is something wrong with myself or with my baby because this process is not easy or natural. So the message I want to send from the podcast and we want to send as breastfeeding professionals is, yes, it is a natural process. Absolutely, it could be easy. It could also be difficult. It could also be somewhere in the middle. It could have some obstacles along the way. So we never should pretend that just because it's natural, it's going to be an automatic process for everybody. Now, breastfeeding journeys are unique, or infant feeding journeys are unique. For some families, there might be a medical contraindication why they cannot breastfeed. For other families, based on their specific circumstances, they might make a very definite choice that they're not going to breastfeed. They're going to do breast milk, but pumping exclusively. Some families might choose formula exclusively. And that's fine. Everybody has their own individual journey. But the part where I want to emphasize is that a lot of families will stop this process because when they encounter difficulties and society tells them that it's easy and natural, that everybody should be able to do it, that it just happens, they find themselves without resources. They find themselves at a loss and they don't know what to do. Sometimes society will tell them, oh, if it hurts, it's normal. Everybody has pain when they start breastfeeding. It will go away. In the meantime, we have this mom with cracked nipples, with bleeding nipples. Sometimes that's developing into something else, and they are suffering and struggling. But everybody's telling them pain is normal. Pain is not normal. If pain is happening, we need to find the source of that pain. We need to find out what is going on that is causing that pain. Okay, so if somebody tells you, oh, yeah, it's normal when it hurts. No, it shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't hurt. If it's hurting, you need to work with a professional. to find out what's going on and find out how we can make the process more comfortable, okay? You shouldn't be clenching, kind of constricting, kind of shrinking every time you're going to breastfeed your baby. So, talking about myths such as that is a really good conversation starter. And I see people's desire to learn and to know more. But again, going back a little bit to that natural and easy, a lot of families that are having their first baby that have decided to breastfeed will grow straight. A lot of families that are having their first baby, they're on their first breastfeeding journey and have decided that they will breastfeed, will go straight into it without any additional information because they've heard that it's natural and easy. They'll just jump on the bandwagon and hope for the best. And my point today is to tell you, if you have decided you are breastfeeding and this is your first baby, please, please, please find resources and do your research before the baby comes. Okay? You have options. You can attend a breastfeeding class locally at your hospital or with your local childbirth educator, lactation educators, such as myself. You can find good resources on the internet. We have excellent resources such as La Leche League, Kelly Mom. The Mayo Clinic is really good also for breastfeeding resources. The Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine website. All of these are excellent resources for you. Okay? So, like we said, number one, find a class. Number two, do your research. If you don't want to attend the class, which of course I'm going to tell you is pretty awesome and you get to ask questions in person. But if you prefer not to attend the class, find your evidence-based research online. Look on these websites that I recommended. Okay? And draft a plan for your breastfeeding. Learn a little bit about what's happening in that breastfeeding journey. Learn about how things get started and what's really happening in your body, in the baby's body, etc. Number three, I'm going to encourage you to, of course, have your support system in place before you start that breastfeeding journey. Find your lactation educator or counselor. Find your IBCLC. Find your postpartum doula. Find the professionals, and of course, I'm talking about a postpartum doula that has lactation training, okay? Find the professionals that are going to be able to help you in the event that things don't go so flowy and natural. And additionally, if things don't go so flowy and natural, it's okay. You are not doing anything wrong. You are doing everything right as a mom, as a dad, okay? You guys are doing your absolute best with the information you have. But knowing where to find those resources, having a list of people that can actually support you beforehand, that can be really helpful. And of course, when I talk about support, I'm going to talk about professional support and I'm going to talk about your network of support. Who in your family has had experience with the breastfeeding journey and you know they will be supportive when you start breastfeeding? Not the people in your family that will shame you for not doing it right, not those. The people that will truly support you and be like, hey, it's okay. I know it's perhaps a little difficult, but I'm here for you. If you have questions, if you need some support with the baby, if you need me to help you with a breastfeeding session, whatever it is. So I'm always going to tell you to, of course, recognize your network of support that is close to you. And those people exist. They might be our mother, our grandmother, they might be a cousin, a neighbor. a sister. You know better. And of course, we're going to put together that family support, that friend support with the professional support. And it's okay to have these things in place. You might need them, you might not. And it's absolutely fine to at least have them laid down on the table and ready to go. Another thing I'm going to encourage you is to really inform yourself. Okay. I think there is a lot of generic knowledge about breastfeeding, but not a lot of substantial, specific knowledge. When you start delving into the basics of breastfeeding, you want to learn about the anatomy of lactation. You want to learn about what's happening in your body, what's happening in the baby's body. How is the milk getting created? How is the milk getting to your baby? What is happening with the different types of milk? What is happening with the baby's nutritional needs in the first few days, in the first week as the baby gets older? I don't want it to sound overwhelming, but I want you to really understand the process that's going on. As part of that, you need to know that labor can go many different ways. And if there are IV fluids in labor, if there is a C-section, etc., all of these things can cause different scenarios with breastfeeding. We can be looking at increased engorgement, okay, and increased inflammation of the tissue, which might make it harder to breastfeed. We might be looking at a delayed coming down of the milk, because of a C-section. So there are a lot of things that can go into play. And sometimes in those first few days when things are changing rapidly, if you don't have the good information to know what to expect, you could fall into I guess I don't have milk. I guess I'll just give formula to my baby. No, wait, you have milk. It's just that it hasn't come in yet. You have the colostrum right now. The colostrum is very important for the baby. We're never going to say, oh, it's just the colostrum. The colostrum is hugely important for the baby. It has a nutritional function, but the biggest function it has is an immune system protection, okay? It's for the immunity of the baby. So it is absolutely something we want to give to the baby. And when you come to a class, we are going to talk about how to do hand expression, right? How to massage your breast to get that colostrum and get that milk, especially if you are engorged. We are going to talk about how to collect that milk, that colostrum, to feed it to your baby. We are going to talk about what to expect in those first few days, in that first week, in that first month, because their stomach is very, very small at first when they're born. And so the dietary needs that they have at the beginning are small, and then they change, of course. So there is a lot to really learn and to really understand. And of course, it's beautiful that it's a natural process. But remember, it might not be natural for everybody. Of course, it's beautiful to think that for hundreds and thousands of years, that's how we've been feeding our babies. And in ancient times, when somebody didn't have milk, they had other women in the community that would feed the baby or wet nurses. So for hundreds, thousands of years, this has been the way we have nourished new life on earth. And it's pretty amazing. But I encourage you to lean on research, to lean on all the amazing information we have nowadays. And if you're a little doubtful about whether to choose formula or breast milk, I encourage you to look at the components of breast milk versus the components of formula. If you look at the components of formula, the list is like J long, not super long. If you look at the components of breast milk, the list is super long. And the interesting thing is they're still discovering new components in breast milk. We could do an entire episode of the components of breast milk, and we probably will do it later in the season. But I just want to put on the table today that desire to learn more. And no, I'm not saying you have to do a master's degree in lactation to start your breastfeeding journey. But I would encourage you to find that information, whether it's through taking a class with a lactation educator or counselor, whether it is by going online into, trustworthy evidence-based sources to learn more about breastfeeding, whether it is by talking to your postpartum doula that is additionally trained in lactation, whether it is that you have a doctor that is very supportive of breastfeeding and it's a person that you trust and you would love to talk to them. Absolutely. Find where your sources are and definitely contemplate breastfeeding as a beautiful opportunity. I mean, marvel in the amazing gift that we have. And at the end of the day, we always say, in lactation work, we always say, remember that the breastfeeding relationship should be continued as long as it's mutually beneficial for mom and baby. So you know your circumstances better. Whatever works for you is what you need to do. I just want you to have all the building blocks, all the information to look at your options, to have your list of support people, professionals, and more family friends ready. So if you need help, you know where to get it. Because believe me, when you're in postpartum, trying to go through the postpartum recovery, and now there is an issue with lactation, and you're dealing with pain or sore nipples or cracked nipples or engorgement or mastitis, whatever it is, and now you're suffering, you're worrying about feeding your baby, you're in pain, that is a time where your nerves are kind of, your whole system is on alert, so that's not the time to be thinking rationally and start doing research at that time, and blah, blah, blah. No, that's the time to have everything ready and know where to find that resource when you need it. Because ultimately, I'm going to tell you whether you decide to continue breastfeeding or you decide to do pumping exclusively or combo feed between breast milk and formula, have all your options available. But always know that breastfeeding is an absolute golden choice if you can, make it work in your situation and for your family. And I never want to meet a client that tells me I abandoned breastfeeding because it was too hard, because my family told me not to bother, because my husband didn't support me, because it hurt and I didn't know where to find help. Okay? You abandon your breastfeeding journey. You have looked for the support. You have tried all those avenues and ultimately decided it's not for you. That's great. But first, try those avenues. I want you to know there are people ready to help you, professionals ready to help you. So, a postpartum doula with lactation training is a very good professional to help you. A lactation educator or counselor is an excellent person to help you. A midwife that has advanced lactation training, wonderful. An IBCLC, absolutely. And I want you to know that you can both access those services through paying, through like a paid relationship, a client relationship, or you can access those services through government agencies that we have available. So in the US, we have WIC, Women, Infant, Children, and WIC has lactation peer counselors, and they also have IBCLCs. So there are options in the community for you. There are many options. So please know that you're never without options. Please know that we are here for you and we are here to support you. And if you're watching the video and you're seeing my breast model, I will tell you the breast model is the absolute life of the party in any fair or baby expo I go to. Everybody comes to the table and goes, "Oh, haha, that's funny." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know the first time you see a knitted breast model, you think it looks funny, but in reality, it's an amazing teaching tool because we can use it to, like I said, you come to a class and we're going to talk about hand expression. We're going to talk about how to do a reverse pressure softening massage for when you have engorgement. We are going to talk about what engorgement looks like and how when the breast is engorged, the nipple might feel like it's more tucked inside and it might be harder for your baby to latch. So the breast model is an amazing tool, and that's one of the perks you get when you come to a class in person, is that we will let you use the breast model and we will show you how to do it. So that's pretty wonderful. And another thing I'm going to do is invite you to take part in any events that are happening in your community. I can assure you there are breastfeeding fairs, there are baby expos, and there are classes also held at your local hospital, as well as classes held by your local lactation educators. So there are so many resources available to you that you just need to look a little bit and get your ducks in a row and decide where you are going to go. And of course, I'm always going to tell you more learning is better because I am a teacher after all, and I love learning and I love sharing knowledge with other people. But like I said earlier, the beauty about this type of fairs is that as much as you share with other people, there is so much that they share with you. And there is so much that I learn from those interactions. So I'm very grateful to the families that stopped by my table a few days ago and shared their stories with me and told me about their breastfeeding journeys and how things were going, etc. I know I promised to tell you about breastfeeding positions, and this is going to be me sharing with you a little bit about them. But I am going to encourage you to do your own research as to what each of them looks like and how they make a difference. Okay. So we have the side lying position. I think the name says it all, right? The mom is lying on her side next to the baby. We have the football position. I think you can imagine what that looks like if you know American football. So just imagine the American football under your arm and you're close, okay? We have the cradle position, which is the traditional position to hold the baby while breastfeeding. We have the cross cradle. So in that one, we're not quite doing the traditional position. We're crossing the body a little bit. And we have the lying back position, which is the most relaxed one. I encourage you to really look online, like I said, at trustworthy sources, and find a picture of what those positions look like. I think a lot of us, when we think of breastfeeding our baby, we go straight for cradle because it's what we've always seen, right? But look at the different positions, look at the benefits for each of them, and really pick the one that you think is going to be best for your baby. And another thing, once your baby's here and you're breastfeeding, nobody said that you have to stick to one of them. You can experiment with a few of them to see which one feels better to you and your baby, which one helps your baby latch better and feel more comfortable for lactating. Okay. So that's going to be my homework to you, that you're going to research more about those 5 breastfeeding positions, and please make sure that you also find an actual picture so you see what they look like. Okay. And for today, instead of leaving you with birth at the movies, I'm going to leave you with a few words of affirmation that you can use to encourage your spouse or your friend or family member to continue breastfeeding. So, what can we use as words of encouragement? I admire how you give breastfeeding your best. I support your choice to breastfeed. Take it one feeding at a time. You are such a wonderful mother. Your baby is so lucky to have you. These are so important because so many times we feel guilt around our motherhood journey, around our breastfeeding journey. And sometimes we feel that we are not supported by the society around us. So anytime you offer these words of encouragement to somebody else, or you put them in the first person and apply them to yourself every morning, it's a reminder to your brain that you're doing your absolute best and that help is available. You will be okay. You and your baby will be okay. These come from the WIC website, and I am going to put a link in the show notes so you can look at them, okay? Okay, well, it's been a pleasure spending time with you today. I wish you a good rest of the week, and I will see you in next week's episode. Bye. Hey, you have listened to the Wise Doula podcast today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, everything we discussed today was meant for entertainment and educational purposes only. It does not substitute the advice of your medical provider. Would you do us a favor? Follow me on Instagram at LovingBellyDoula. Also, let me know what other topics you would like to see me discuss in this podcast. And please subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platforms. Thank you so much. I will see you next week.